Hey, you. You're finally awake.
The beat 'em up. Few genres capture the raw thrill of pixel punching your way through waves of bad guys quite like it. And the golden age of the NES, side-scrolling brawlers were a perfect match for the console's action-heavy, no-nonsense gameplay. Whether you were cleaning up the street solo or teaming up with a buddy in two-player mode, these games delivered hours of button-mashing chaos, colourful enemies, and unforgettable boss battles. While the NES did have its limitations compared to arcade cabinets, developers found creative ways to bring the beat-em-up experience home, with great success and others not so much. So today we're going to be looking at 7 beat-em-ups that you really should have a look at. As always, this is not the definitive list, this is just the 7 examples that I'm giving. If you played these before, let me know, and if there's ones I've missed, let me know in the comments below, because that's how we make more videos. Before we get into this list, if you really think I deserve it, please hit that like and subscribe button. It really helps the channel grow, and we're on our way to 6,000 subscribers. And if you want to hear more of me, Retro Wars is a weekly podcast where this week we are covering Aladdin for the Super Nintendo. And we also got a $1 a month Patreon where you can get involved with the podcast and get your own show called DLC. Right, let's get into it, shall we? 7 beat-em-ups you really need to have a look at. Bad Dudes. Released in 1989 for the NES by Data East, Bad Dudes immerses players in an 80s-style rescue mission. President Ronnie is kidnapped by the Dragon Ninja Gang, and only 2 streetwise fighters, Blade and Striker, can save him. The game opens with a now famous line, "Are you bad enough, dude, to rescue the president?" and it became iconic in retro gaming culture. The arcade original debuted in 1988, becoming one of the top 5 highest-grossing arcade titles in the US that year. In Japan, the NES version released in July 1989 under the title Dragon Ninja, followed by the North American and European NES releases in the mid to late 1989 and 1990. These ports attempted to adapt arcade energy into home hardware with varying results. Gameplay takes you through 7 linear stages: city streets, big rig trucks, storm sewers, forest, train car, cave, and enemy headquarters, facing waves of ninja foes. Controls are simple: punches, kicks, a spinning jump kick, and a charged key punch. You can pick up knives and nunchucks for better reach, although the playable characters offer no meaningful differentiation beyond palette swaps. At the end of each level, a distinct boss awaits, until you finally meet the Dragon Ninja himself in a helicopter. Some bosses reportedly cannot be beaten without a weapon, making pickups essential strategy elements. Visually, the NES vision is modest, large but blocky sprites, limited animation, and heavy sprite flicker during action-heavy sequences. The colour schemes are often garish and character contrast with backgrounds is poor. Still, the "I'm bad" voice clip at the ends of each levels adds the camp charm. At release and in retrospective reviews, overall sentiment is mixed. User reviews average around 6 to 7 out of 10, with many describing it as cheesy fun more than polished gameplay. Praise is often reserved for touches like the spin kick and voice clip, while critics commonly pointed out stiff controls, collision inconsistencies, sprite flicker, and the lack of simultaneous multiplayer. Later retrospective voices are more balanced. Critics noted that the weapon usage often decides victory in boss fights, framing it as key to advancing. The NES edition also features alternate endings. One shows the dude celebrating with hamburgers alongside the president, which has a humorous twist overlooked in the arcade version. Though not groundbreaking in game design, Bad Dudes earned cult status thanks to its over-the-top premise and macho attitude. Its cheesy dialogue and cinematic intro earned it admiration among retro fans, despite its mechanical simplicity. The game's legacy rests in its attitude more than technical achievement. Compared to deeper titles like Double Dragon or River City Ransom, Bad Dude lacks system or upgrades, but what it lacks in depth make for unabashed 80s bravado. And you often see the game featured in speedruns and retro streams today. And to be honest, it's so frequently featured in speedruns and retro streams today. The game's not a masterpiece, let's be honest, but it's a memorable piece of NES history, perfect for retro commentary and tongue-in-cheek nostalgia. River City Ransom. River City Ransom dropped in 1990 as a North American localization of the Japanese Downtown Neketsu Monogatari. Did I pronounce that correctly? If I did, I'm very impressed. Developed by Technos Japan, it blended high school combat, quirky humour, and RPG elements into a beat-em-up unlike anything else on the NES. The opening premise is delightfully absurd. The protagonist Alex must rescue his girlfriend Cindy from the nefarious gang leader Slick, who is wreaking havoc across River City. The Ransom note sets the tone, maybe convoluted, but ultimately perfect for late 80s youth fantasy and suburban street fights. At release, the game was praised for originality. Critically, it stood out because Technos Japan built on the momentum from Double Dragon, adding non-linear city traversal, weapons, stat upgrades, and shops with malls. Players could fight rivals on the streets, visit shopping centres to buy food or clothes that improve strength, stamina, defence, agility, even learn new moves in bookstores, creating a hybrid of a brawler and RPG-like progression. Gameplay starts simply: punch and kick via 2-button control, jump combo by pressing A and B, run by double tapping directions. As you defeat enemies, you collect coins dropped from defeated foes, and eventually purchase items to raise stats and pick up new techniques like rapid kicks, rolling attacks, and improved combos. Many reviewers agree the controls are quite good, but occasionally slow down during two-player mode where many sprites fill the screen, slightly affecting responsiveness. The level designs gives River City a semi-open world feel. You can freely traverse between streets, parks, factories and schools, battling different themed gangs like frat guys, jocks and generic dudes until reaching boss turf zones. Some areas require backtracking and failure sends you back to the most recent entered mall with half your coins. That risk reinforces a loop of combat, shopping and stats building before progression, adding strategic pacing to what otherwise repetitive fighting. Graphics are bold and blocky with simple yet expressive sprite work. Character animations are tight for NES standards. Enemies stagger, spin or burst apart differently depending on their attack. Backgrounds vary from chain link fences to neon lit malls, though the detail is limited. The friendly faces you meet in stores are static, but colour palettes shift from bright malls to dark alleys. Visually, it's memorable even if it is primitive. Contemporary and retrospective reviews ranked the game highly. Nintendo Life gave it 7.5 out of 10, praising its humour and inventive gameplay. Many outlets praised it in the top 10 NES beat-em-up titles ever. Game FAQs and Moby Games user reviews often call it one of the greatest beat-em-ups on the NES, highlighting its depth and charm. One quote sums it up with its cult status, not only a superb arcade action, but unprecedented level of gameplay depth for its time. Legacy-wise, River City Ransom inspired many later hybrids. Scott Pilgrim, River City Girls, and other indie action RPG beat-em-ups owe a depth to its style. Its co-op mode was unusual for an RPG beat-em-up at the time, and its shop and traversal gameplay loop proved influential. Ranked repeatedly on the best NES game list by IGN, Games Radar, Paste, and Retro Gamer, it remains one of the most enduring NES classics. In summary, River City Ransom stands up as combining street fighting and stat-driven progression with humour and accessible co-op. Its visual and audio design are simple by today's standards, but impactful considering the hardware. Its influence is evident even decades later. It's not just nostalgia, it's a template that countless indie and retro titles continue to follow. Double Dragon. Double Dragon originally debuted in arcades in 1987, developed by Technos West as we heard earlier. Its NES port followed in 1988 for Japan and 1989 for North America, published by Trade West with Nintendo handling European release. The port altered many aspects, including the story roles. Instead of two-player co-op with Billy and Jimmy working together, the NES version has players control Billy Lee solo, while Jimmy appears as the antagonist behind Marion's kidnapping. The premise is simple. A crime syndicate, the Black Warriors, kidnap Marion and Billy fights through 4 urban-themed stages: city streets, factory, woodland and a gangster fortress to save her. It retains the gritty street fight vibe of the arcade, but compresses stage counts and simplifies level layouts for the NES hardware. Gameplay centers on punch and kick buttons, jump kick via pressing both, plus grapples and throws learnt through progression. The NES version includes an experience mechanic. Defeating enemies yields experience points, or hearts, unlocking new moves like uppercuts, back elbows and rolling attacks, some of these not found in the arcade original. In the absence of simultaneous co-op, the NES port offers alternating two-player and a versus mode where players or CPU fight off against selections or characters. The versus mode adds replay value but doesn't replace the missing co-op brawl experience of the arcade version. Stage designs vary. While the first 2 levels offered solid pacing and combat challenge, the latter 2 are notorious for platforming elements, conveyor belt hazards and cheap enemy placements, with reviewers say introduced unfair difficulty spikes late in the game. Graphically, the NES version made impressive use of the hardware. Sprites are large and expressive, stage backgrounds include surreal colours like purple skies and pink caves, and detailed heightened visual charm despite technical limitations. There is occasional sprite flicker and slowdown, which occur when there are multiple enemies on the screen. Contemporary and retrospectives often scored the NES port between 7 and 8 out of 10. Users praise its faithful spirit, unlockable moves and presentation under NES constraints. Critics still cite the lack of true multiplayer and uneven pacing, but many consider it a serviceable home adaptation of the arcade classic. Retrospective's commentary positions Double Dragon as a foundational NES game, a game that shaped the beat-em-up blueprint and influenced countless successors. Honest Gamers remarked that while the arcade version did define the genre, the NES conversion remains revered for its ambition in implementing progression systems and level variety within its limitations. In summary, Double Dragon for the NES is historically important, if flawed transition of an iconic arcade game. It lacks the co-op and polish of the original, but augments combat with experience-based moves and introduces multiplayer versus mode. Its visuals and music are memorable for the NES standards, and despite frustrating difficulty spikes, its legacy as a beat-em-up pioneer makes it essential for retro enthusiasts and history buffs alike. Toxic Crusaders. based on the cult animated series of the same name, which itself was a family-friendly spin-off of the notoriously violent Toxic Avenger films, Toxic Crusaders for the NES is one of the more bizarre licensed games from the early 90s. Developed by Tosei and published by Bandai in 1992, the game attempts to blend the cartoon's environmental themes and offbeat humour with a traditional side-scrolling action format. What results is a colourful, quirky, yet uneven beat-em-up that feels like a forgotten curiosity more than a lost gem. You play as Toxie, the mutated superhero janitor with a heart of gold and a mop of justice. After being transformed by toxic waste, he takes on the polluting villains of Apocalypse Incorporated, which includes a rogues gallery of outlandish foes who look like they've stumbled out of a Saturday morning fever dream. To be fair, I loved the cartoon growing up. I never saw the films. I want to see the films and the other adult remake of it. I want to see them, but I watched the cartoon and I loved it as a kid. Saturday morning cartoon was my thing. The story's simple: defeat the bad guys, clean up Tromaville, and restore the eco-friendly order to the world. Much like the cartoon, the game is tongue-in-cheek and doesn't take itself too seriously, which works to its benefit tonally, but it struggles to keep the gameplay engaging. The visuals are surprisingly bright and detailed for a late NES release. The sprites are large and colourful, especially Toxie himself with his massive lumbering frame and mop always at the ready. Enemy characters are similarly grotesque and vibrant, each with exaggerated animations and comic book style flair. The backgrounds, while a bit repetitive, offer suitably toxic environments. Sludge-filled factories, dripping sewers, and toxic waste dumps all fit the cartoon's radioactive aesthetic. The gameplay, however, is where Toxic Avengers begins to falter. At its core, it's a fairly standard side-scrolling brawler. Toxie uses a mop to whack enemies, throw projectiles, and jump his way through each stage. There's limited variety in combat, attacks are basic, and there are only a handful of enemy types that repeat throughout the game. Hit detection is often spotty, leading to frustrating moments where enemies seem to strike from impossible angles or shrug off your attacks entirely. Movement feels stiff, and the jump physics are floaty, making platforming sections more annoying than fun. What makes things worse is the game's difficulty. Enemies come at you relentlessly, often swarming you from both sides at a warning. Toxie doesn't have many health pickups and lives are limited, making progress a tedious trial and error process, or a save scumming attempt. There's no password or save system, so each time you die you're sent back to the beginning. A frustrating design choice, especially when the game doesn't offer the depth or balance to make replaying it rewarding. Despite its shortcomings, Toxic Crusaders does have charm. The humour is delightfully weird, with comic book style cutscenes and goofy enemy designs. There are also some nice touches, like Toxie using his mop as a pogo stick or throwing toxic barrels as weapons. Fans of the cartoon will appreciate the faithful character art and irreverent tone, even if the game doesn't fully deliver on its potential. Reception at the time was lukewarm, with many critics and players finding the game too difficult and too shallow to recommend, even to fans of the cartoon. Compared to other beat-em-ups on the NES like Double Dragon or River City Ransom, it didn't have the polish or depth to stand out. As a result, Toxic Crusaders fades into obscurity fairly quickly and remains a footnote in both NES and cartoon history. In retrospect, Toxic Crusaders is more interesting as a piece of media history than as a game. It represents a strange time where hyper-violent R-rated films could spawn kid-friendly cartoons, which in turn inspired NES adaptations. While the game struggles under its own radioactive weight, it's a fascinating relic from a truly bizarre multimedia franchise. It's not good, but it's memorable. Kung Fu Heroes. Kung Fu Heroes on the NES is a vibrant and engaging action game that offers a unique blend of beat-em-up mechanics with puzzle-solving elements, setting it apart from many other NES titles of its era. Released in 1989 by Culture Brain, a company known for its quirky and innovative games, Kung Fu Hero invites players into a colourful martial arts adventure where strategic thinking and quick reflexes go hand in hand. Despite being somewhat overlooked compared to bigger NES titles, the game remains a cult favourite for its charming presentation, inventive gameplay, and challenging level design. The premise of Kung Fu Heroes is straightforward yet motivating. Players control a pair of Kung Fu warriors tasked with rescuing a group of kidnapped villagers from the clutches of an evil force. The kidnapped villagers are held captive inside various enemy strongholds scattered across 5 distinct worlds, each with its own unique challenges and enemies. The mission is to clear each fortress by defeating enemies and solving strategic puzzles to unlock gates and free all the captives. Once the last prisoner is revealed in a level, the players can advance the next stage, progressing towards the final showdown. One of the most compelling aspects of Kung Fu Heroes is its dual-player cooperative gameplay. The NES version supports 2 players, allowing friends or siblings to team up and tackle the game's challenges together. This cooperative mode enhances the fun and strategy, as players must coordinate their movements and attacks to overcome enemies' efficiency and navigate puzzles. The ability to play together in an era where many games were strictly single-player or competitive added a special appeal to Kung Fu Heroes. Gameplay is built around fast-paced martial arts combat, mixed with clever puzzle mechanics. Players can punch and kick and use a variety of special moves to defeat a diverse roster of enemies, ranging from ninjas and bandits to larger boss characters. What makes Kung Fu Heroes stand out is the way players must also manipulate the environment. locking or unlocking gates by defeating enemies in a certain order or within a time limit, and somewhat even trapping foes strategically. Movement feels fluid, and the combat animations are crisp, making every punch and kick feel impactful. This control scheme also complements the level design, where enemies spawn in waves and players must balance offensive with strategic positioning to avoid being overwhelmed. Visually, Kung Fu Heroes embraces a colourful and cartoonish art style that perfectly suits its light-hearted martial arts theme. Character sprites are well detailed for an NES game, with expressive animations that bring the Kung Fu warriors and their adversaries to life. The levels are vibrant and varied, featuring lush forest, enemy fortresses, and intricate gates that reflect the different worlds the players traverse. The attention to detail enhances the game's overall charm and helps immerse players in its adventurous spirit. Critically, Kung Fu Heroes was praised for originality and cooperative gameplay, but did not achieve the widespread fame of other NES classics, often overshadowed by larger franchises. However, its blend of action and puzzle elements were ahead of its time, influencing later games that mixed genres to create more varied gameplay experiences. The game's difficulty is well balanced, with later stages providing meaningful challenge that tests both player skill and teamwork. In retrospect, Kung Fu Heroes stands as a unique and enjoyable title within the NES library. Its cooperative gameplay, strategic combat, and colourful presentation offers a refreshing alternative to the more straightforward action games of the period. For retro gamers and fans of classic Kung Fu films, the game provides a satisfying blend of martial arts excitement and thoughtful puzzle solving. While it may not be as famous as some other NES juggernauts, Kung Fu Heroes remains a hidden gem worth revisiting for its creativity and fun. In conclusion, Kung Fu Heroes on the NES combines fast-paced martial arts action with clever puzzle mechanics and cooperative play to deliver a memorable and challenging gaming experience. Its charming graphics, solid controls, and engaging level design help it stand out as an underrated classic. Whether playing solo or with a friend, the game invites players to test their kung fu skills and strategic thinking in a vibrant and entertaining adventure that still holds up decades after its release. Mighty Final Fight. Mighty Final Fight on the NES is beloved and a distinctive entry in the beat-em-up genre, released by Capcom in 1993. Unlike many other adaptations for arcade hits to home consoles, Mighty Final Fight took a fresh and playful approach by reimagining the characters and the world of the original arcade game with a charming, super deformed or chibi art style. This gave the game a light-hearted, cartoonish vibe that set it apart from the grittier and more realistic tone of its arcade counterpart. Though the NES was nearing the end of its life cycle by 1993, Mighty Final Fight remains a standout title for its tight gameplay, memorable characters, and unique style. The game's storyline follows the basic premise of the original Final Fight. The city of Metro City is under siege by a violent gang called Mad Gear, and it's up to three heroes, Cody, Hagar, and Guy, to clean up the streets and rescue Hagar's kidnapped daughter Jessica. Mighty Final Fight condenses this classic port into a more compact and fast-paced NES experience. Players fight through several levels filled with enemies, culminating in boss battles that test their combat skills. While the story is simple, it effectively sets the stage for non-stop brawling action. Now, one of the most appealing features of Mighty Final Fight is its gameplay, which refines the beat-em-up formula to suit the NES hardware and audience. Unlike the original arcade, which supported 3-player simultaneous action, this game is a 2-player co-op beat-em-up, allowing friends to team up and take on waves of street thugs together. Combat is straightforward yet satisfying, featuring punches, kicks, jumps and throws. Players can pick up weapons like knives and pipes, adding variety and tactical options. The controls are responsive and light, ensure that combat feels smooth and rewarding despite the NES's limitations. Many Final Fight level designs emphasize a faster pace than many NES beat-em-ups. The stages are shorter and more compact, encouraging a quick push forward rather than a slow drawn-out fights. This design decision makes the game accessible but still challenging, especially in later levels where enemies come at players in greater numbers with more aggressive patterns. Each game features distinctive settings such as city streets, docks and nightclubs, all rendered in the game's cute chibi style. Visually, Mighty Final Fight is arguably one of the NES's most charming beat-em-ups. The super deformed character designs are exaggerated and expressive, giving each fighter a distinct personality. This approach contrasts sharply with the more serious and realistic sprites of many NES beat-em-ups, making the game feel fresh and inviting. The backgrounds are colourful and detailed, featuring urban environments filled with graffiti, signs and other small touches that add depth to the setting. Enemy sprites are varied, ranging from common street punks to unique bosses with distinct attack styles. One of Mighty Final Fight's defining qualities is accessibility combined with enough challenge to keep players engaged. While the difficulty curve is well balanced, the game can be quite demanding in the final stages, requiring precise timing and cooperation in 2-player mode. The limited number of lives and continues available reflects the NES's era design philosophy, encouraging players to hone their skills and replay stages to improve. This balance of accessibility and challenge helped the game appeal to both casual and dedicated players. In terms of legacy, Mighty Final Fight is fondly remembered as a unique and enjoyable adaptation of a popular arcade franchise. Its stylistic departure from the original, combined with tight gameplay and cooperative fun, has earned it a loyal fan base among retro gaming enthusiasts. It represents a creative way to bring a beloved arcade experience to the home console in a format suited to the NES capabilities and the preference of its audience. The game's influence can also be seen in super deformed or chibi-style spin-offs of other franchises, Super Robot, highlighting its role in popularising this aesthetic. In conclusion, Mighty Final Fight on the NES offers a charming, fast-paced and accessible beat-em-up experience with a unique visual style that stands out from other games in the genre. Its responsive controls, cooperative gameplay and engaging level designs make it a must-play for fans of classic beat-em-ups and retro gaming. Even decades after release, Mighty Final Fight remains a testament to Capcom's ability to innovate within familiar franchises, delivering a fun and memorable experience on the aging NES platform. And finally, Battletoads and Double Dragon. Battletoads and Double Dragon on the NES is a unique and ambitious crossover that combines two iconic franchises into a single beat-em-up experience. Released in 1993 by Rare and published by Trade West, this game merges the chaotic, challenging gameplay of Battletoads with the classic fighting style of Double Dragon. The result is a fast-paced, brutally difficult title that pushes the NES hardware to its limit and stands out as one of the most memorable and infamous games of the console's late era. The storyline unites the universe of the Battletoads and Double Dragon series. Players can choose to play as one of the Battletoads, Rash, Zitz or Pimple, or the Lee brothers from Double Dragon, Billy and Jimmy. The heroes join forces to battle a powerful alliance of villains led by the Dark Queen and Shadow Warriors. The narrative is straightforward but effective, providing a reason for this unlikely team-up and setting the stage for intense action through multiple varied levels. Gameplay in Battletoads and Double Dragon is wild and unforgiving beat-em-up experience, combining the signature tough as nails challenge of Battletoads with the classic martial arts moves of Double Dragon. The game supports 1 or 2 players, allowing for cooperative play and characters to fight through waves of enemies using punch, kicks, grabs and special moves. Players can switch between characters, each with their own unique abilities and fighting styles, adding strategic variety to the action. The game is infamous for its punishing difficulty, featuring relentless enemy waves, tricky platforming sections, and hazardous obstacles that demand precise timing and memorization. Notorious stages like Turbo Tunnel and the Vertical Climb test players' reflexes to the extreme, making Battletoads and Double Dragon a game that requires patience and perseverance. However, for those who master its challenges, the gameplay delivers a rewarding sense of accomplishment. Graphically, the game is a technical marvel for the NES, showcasing detailed and colourful sprites, smooth animations, and large character models that capture the essence of both franchises. The backgrounds are richly designed, featuring diverse environments such as urban streets, space stations, and alien landscapes, each filled with dynamic elements and visual flair. The art style blends the cartoony look of Battletoads with the more grounded aesthetic of Double Dragon, creating a unique hybrid look that feels cohesive. Battletoads and Double Dragon also incorporate several gameplay mechanics that keep the game fresh. Beyond the core beat-em-up action, players face varied challenges including vehicle sections, climbing sequences, and puzzle-like obstacles. These changes of pace prevent monotony and keep players engaged throughout the game's length. However, these segments often ramp up difficulty further, adding to the game's reputation as one of the most challenging NES titles. Critically, Battletoads and Double Dragon received praise for its ambitious crossover attempts, graphic achievements, and with intense gameplay. However, its steep difficulty curve proved polarising, with some players finding the game frustratingly hard, while others celebrated it as a rewarding test of skill. It remains a quintessential example of the era's tendency to push games to punishing extremes, requiring dedication and mastery to conquer. In terms of legacy, Battletoads and Double Dragon has become a cult classic, remembered fondly by retro gamers for its unique fusion of two beloved franchises and its relentless challenge. The game stands as a testament to Rare's creativity and technical prowess during the NES twilight years, and showcases how licensed and crossover titles can deliver memorable experiences when handled with care and ambition. In conclusion, Battletoads and Double Dragon on the NES offers a fiercely challenging and visually impressive beat-em-up adventure that unites two legendary franchises in a thrilling crossover. Its fast-paced combat, varied level design, and cooperative play make it a must-experience for fans of classic NES action games. Though notorious for its difficulty, the game's unique blend of styles and technical achievements ensure it remains a standout title in the halls of retro gaming history. And that's it! 7 beat-em-ups that you should really give a go for the NES. What do you think? Have you played some of these before? Are the ones I need to talk about? If so, put it in the comments below. And I said if you really think I deserve it, hit that like button and subscribe. It really helps the channel. Until then, my name's been Danny. I'll see you all again for another 3 days for another video. You all take care of yourself. Bye bye.